Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chief Technology Officer and Senior Vice President of Research and Development, VMware, Steve Herod.
This is a much more cozy audience, so I'm happy to be here. This is a great way to kick off VMworld after the morning keynote, because it is such a great technical session and solving a lot of the problems that we were just talking about. So I always get a kick out of how this works. I enjoy working with Pat and Chad all the time. What I was also floored by this morning when I was waking up and drinking a little coffee before the early event was the number of press releases and the number of new blogs out. And a lot of the things that I talked about just a little while ago, if you were there, around the monster VM and these new performance barriers were done by VMware working with EMC. And I think you'll hear a little bit more about those hopefully in this session. So I'm not going to talk too much more. I'll be back on stage later. But it's going to be a great pleasure to introduce Pat Gelsinger to stage in just a moment. I have the pleasure of seeing Pat pretty regularly. We're obviously extremely tight partners and do a lot together strategically and also enjoy working together. So it'll be great to hear from Pat. But I believe we're going to start off with a quick video first.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back at VMworld. I think this is my 5th or 6th time at VMworld, and always a great audience to just see how we're transforming both IT, right, as well as business itself. Right. For the entirety of my career, I've just made a habit of finding what are the key technology trends and just looking deep and saying, what are those key driving forces of the technology industry, and then make sure I'm betting on the right side of those trends. Right? And if we look over history, what we see is that those technologies, those disruptive technologies, have fundamentally changed the course of society, right, history, and the business world. Right? Whether it was arches, right, of the Roman Empire, right, whether it was elevators and Otis enabling skyscrapers and metropolitanization of, urbanization to occur, right, or the Industrial Revolution, right, by the self-contained locomotive engine. Disruptive changes with lasting impacts. And as we look at what's going on today in this world of cloud and big data, we see 3 underlying technologies that are the key driving forces. One of those is standard commoditized performance, right? x86 MIPS. And this is just looking at the performance growth, right, of the last decade or so of the Intel roadmap. A few of those are my chips, I'm very proud to say, right? Still doing very well. All my Intel colleagues keep it up. And it's just standardizing, a high-performance, low-cost compute fabric. And on top of that, what we've seen is that we very quickly, with the industry standard server in the late 90s, x86 became the volume leader, right, of servers. But now, if you look at the the gray line underneath it, it's also the revenue leader, right? Meaning there's more revenue of servers going to x86 than all other architectures combined. So we're 35% or so, and that's carved up between Z, IP, AlphaSpark, right, MIPS, all that other stuff is carved up of the 35%. In other words, they're all niche and quickly becoming legacy. The world is built on a standard computing architecture for the future. We also see, as Paul talked about in his speech yesterday, the world has tipped over. Virtual workloads are the new standard for workloads, now representing over half the workloads running today. And finally, we've seen that there's just been this I/O gap, right? As we've continued to see, right, the ever-increasing clock rate and multi-core processors, but spindles have remained approximately the same in latency. And in the middle of that has emerged flash, or solid-state drives, as a key enabling technology to close the I/O gap. We think of these three technologies as the fundamental technology underlayments for the cloud and big data era, those that we're going to ride with everything we got as a company and make sure we're on the right side of each of those three technology trends. And fundamentally, that will usher in disruptive and lasting change to the IT industry. We've talked about this cloud as a journey, and we're working deeply with our customers in what we call the three phases of the journey: transforming internal IT, right, enabling this environment of private cloud, first beginning with the easy stuff like test and dev, and then moving on to the hard stuff like mission critical, and finally delivering IT as a service, truly transforming the way IT itself is run. And let's look at some of the key products that we're delivering for that private cloud environment, that first phase of the transition occurring inside of the IT data center. Earlier this year, we announced VNXE, right, EMC's first major foray to be a cost leader for storage in the industry. EMC cost leader, something that never happened before, right? But we're bringing EMC brand, reliability, right, the robustness of our solutions to being a cost leader for the entry segment of the market. And since the launch earlier this year, great reception from the industry. Simple, efficient, and affordable, VNXE. We also brought together two of our flagship products with our Solaire and our Clarion product line and brought them together so we would have the best of both worlds, the best of file and the best of block for a truly unified platform offering, taking the latest and greatest processors from Intel, combining those with a new SAS backend, delivering the best of both scalability of both a file environment as well as blade environment, so we truly can deliver our customers the best for both sides, combining that with flash and our fast technologies to deliver very compelling performance capabilities. One example of that would say the performance density. Many customers, particularly in the mid-range marketplace, they just got this much floor space. Let's just maximize the performance I can get for this many tiles. And as you see on the graph here, right, we're double the performance of the next nearest competitor in terms of performance density. A truly compelling capability. More performance per footprint, more performance per watt, right, more performance per dollar delivered out of VNX. And we're also very happy, and Steve made mention, he stole my thunder a little bit this morning, Mr. Hare, right? You know, our 4x more bandwidth through VNX, where we've been able to show 10 gigabytes per second through a single VM, utilizing the FCOE technology from Intel, right, running as a software stack of FCOE. You know, no funky ASICs are required, right? Able to run truly in a fully software stack, riding the Intel technology curve, and taking advantage of a single VNX 7500 for approximately a 4x increase in the bandwidth, right, off of a single array into a single VM, right? A truly powerful result. And speaking of power, our VMax product line continues to be, right, the foundational technology for enterprise environments. Powerful, trusted, right, and smartest platform on the market today. VMax has been, right, the key product that has created and defined EMC as a storage company. And today we're very happy to set a new hero number. the first million IOPS off of a single array, right, with VMware on a single host, right, 1 million IOPS. And we're starting to see customers who are starting to hit hundreds of thousands of IOPS in their environment. So again, we wanted to push the envelope and how far could we go and increase the headroom to 1 million IOPS. And as we're seeing these monster VMs, more consolidation in virtualized environments, we're seeing customers having more and more value to having consolidation in their storage array. And thus performance numbers like these, while just a couple of years ago they might have seemed extravagant and irrelevant, they're in sight of what customers are needing in their environments today. Another first, 1 million IOPS per second off of an EMC vMax with vSphere 5. We're working with our customers to take advantage of virtualized infrastructure. And this morning I'll be calling out just a few of them in the course of the keynote. One of those is Columbia Sportswear. I particularly love the Columbia guys because they're great Northwesterners, right? You know, my permanent residence is in Oregon, right there in Portland, right where their headquarters. So, you know, a special affinity there to the Columbia team. But not only are they great Northwesterners, right, they're also doing some fabulous things with their infrastructure where they've taken mission-critical SAP environments as they moved off a J.D. Edwards environment onto SAP. They've reduced their OpEx and their risk. Right, they're now moving rapidly up 75% plus in their virtualized environment. They're doing so on top of vBlock with vMax and taking advantage of fast VP technology to deliver great performance, right, on that infrastructure as well. And if you might join me in thanking both Dan Hine and Mike Lepper, who are a part of the, yeah, stand up. That's, you're supposed to stand up. Come on, Mike. Yeah. Right, just great customers, a great partner, and really showing mission-critical capabilities, some of the things that Paul and Steve were talking about for their converged V environment there at Columbia Sportswear. And of course, you guys are giving out the new sweatshirts afterwards, right, to everybody? Okay. As we've been working with our customers, we've also found that they really love the vMax E, the vMax value proposition, but they said, I needed them more places, more ways, more geographic, different price points, and with increased ease of use. And with that in mind, we launched in July of this year vMax E, right? A new focused vMax technology product for an entry level into the vMax family. Easy to install, easy to configure, easy to get up and running with all of the same reliability and quality capabilities that vMax and the Symmetrix family have been known to deliver. And with that, you know, vMax E, very compelling response from the industry as we're just beginning to bring it into customer and market configurations. Of course, you need to back up and recover the environment. EMC with our data domain, our Avamar and Networker products, right, has clearly been a leader in the backup and recovery and archive area. And increasingly, we're seeing that customers want this backup environment integrated more seamlessly into their overall infrastructure. They want the efficiency, they want to replace tape, they want to get rid of all that legacy crap, and they want to do so in a far more automated and efficient manner. And for virtualized environments, EMC Avamar is the best way to back up VMware. Highly integrated, an application aware, right, part of and built into the VMware environment. Right, it's a unique technology with variable length dedupe, right, industry best target platforms such as data domain, right, integrated with vSphere and vCloud Director, taking advantage of change block recovery, right, as well as backup. So we see dramatic decrease in the amount of backup bandwidth, right, as well as granularity and recovery, right, and highly integrated into the vCenter and VMware environment. And benchmarking Avamar against the next nearest competitor, you know, 3x faster backup. We're seeing customers who are finding incredible benefits of moving to a virtualized backup environment such as backup. One example of that is HealthQuest. And HealthQuest was finding, as they moved more and more, and you know, these VMs were just propagating like rabbits, so they're having more and more, right, VMs, they had more and more footprint to backup, that their backup windows were stretching well beyond, or their backup time was stretching well beyond the backup windows and stretching into 12 hours. The backups weren't finishing any longer, right? They had this mess of a tape environment. They moved entirely onto an Avamar backup environment. Dramatic reduction in their backup window, 95% reduction, so they're now doing less than an hour of backup as opposed to multiple hours. They have cost savings, they have efficiency, right, ease of use, reduction in their backup staff as well. An incredible example from HealthQuest of taking full advantage of Avamar and our backup solution. So private cloud is the first step. Hybrid cloud is the second step. And what's a hybrid cloud? Well, you know what public clouds are, we know what private clouds are, and hybrid is, can we do the best of both? Could I take advantage of some things on my local private infrastructure, and could I seamlessly move back and forth between data centers, some of which may be third-party or services that I want to take advantage of as well? And we believe that fundamentally the right answer for enterprises is hybrid clouds as the right architecture. Give me the best of both worlds. Right, and we're working with more and more service provider partners, and we showed this picture a year ago. We had 3 or 4 logos on it. 6 months ago, we had 10 logos on it. Right now, we have 25 logos on it, and we're quickly seeing a compelling ecosystem of partners who say, oh, I get it. This is how to truly deliver cloud capabilities into enterprise environments. A set of hybrid services. Some things for governance, risk, compliance, quality of service just has to be internal. But they also want to enable this ability to flexibly move to cloud-based offerings as well. We see that there are 3 key technologies required to deliver on a promise of hybrid cloud. You want to be able to manage through a single pane of glass. I want to see all of my resources. Some might be local, some might be remote. I want to be able to easily move data between the two. So I need to have a federated view and management of my data. And finally, I need to have a trust policy that transcends my private and public cloud environments as well. We think of these 3 as the hybrid technologies. You have to manage it, right? You have to have data mobility, right? And you have to have trust. Against data mobility, right? This is exactly the problem that the vPlex product line is aimed to solve. This ability to dissolve distance, to be able to have large frames of storage being seen as shared across distance, and exactly what vPlex is trying to do. Earlier this year, we released vPlex Geo, right? Being able to move not just deliver this value proposition at synchronous distances, but do it at asynchronous distances as well. The magic behind vPlex is a cached view of the data, right, that is being updated. So you essentially have, zero downtime. You always have an active view of the data over distance. And this is truly transforming how customers think about their data centers. Now I can view 2 data centers essentially as one logical data center, or 3 or 4. And distance becomes my friend for HA and DR, and no longer my enemy for latency and cost. EMC vPlex, a truly differentiated technology to dissolve distance and enable access anywhere. So these are some of the technologies that we're working on in our core products to truly enable a virtualized environment for private and for public and hybrid cloud environments. But now, working with VMware, our objective is to accelerate the journey. Right? I had one customer visit I was on recently where they hadn't yet put their first VM in. Can you believe that, Steve? Right? They're just, is that technology okay? It's like they're on the tail of the laggards. But for the rest of us, right? The exception proves the rule. We're somewhere on that journey. So the question now is, how can we go faster? The value proposition is there, and how can we move further into the journey and accelerate our transition to the cloud? For EMC, right, we're investing big time to accomplish that. Working with our customers and our partners, right, we want to bring those core technologies and align them to the transitions of that journey. Some $25 billion between organic and acquisitions, and we're taking all of those and aligning those toward that journey to the cloud. We're working closely with VMware to bring all of our products to fully support their major release trains as well. and 5 quick examples of how we're aligning with vSphere 5 and the whole 5th generation announcement set from VMware and infrastructure efficiency, storage management, security, VDI, and then development of our broad expertise in the industry. Much of our R&D is focused on aligning to that shared vision, right, of cloud and big data. And against it, if we look at our 2 flagship products, VMax and VNX, over 75 integration points, and in those 2, more than any other product in the industry. We're clearly aligning and integrating our products more effectively than any other competing product in the storage industry. We're also driving to take advantage of the new interfaces that VMware is enabling. One of those is VAI. The ability for the VM environment to intelligently communicate and offload functions into the storage array. Right, and with this now we can see up to 10x performance increase in some functions as we offload them into the array, such as provisioning, replication, and things like that arrays have been built to do very well. You now have a way to communicate those services to the storage array. But fundamentally, we still have these 2 worlds. We have these storage admins over here, right? Who they like file systems and they like LUNs and RAID groups, and I mean that's where they live. And then you got these VM admins over here who are 7x24 inside of their vCenter console environment and their vMotioning and so on. And it's sort of like we need a Rosetta Stone between the 2, right? And how can we make the 2 worlds aware? So our job is making our EMC arrays natively VMware aware, but then also building capabilities into vCenter such that vCenter can start to view storage in their ways. And this is exactly the gap that we're trying to cross. And today we're announcing our VSI 5.0, the 5th generation of our storage plugin for the vCenter environment. That is acting as that Rosetta Stone to making our storage VM aware and to make our vCenter environment storage aware. And it's a free download that we make broadly available for vCenter environments to better enable our storage arrays in fully virtualized environments. Today, we're also happy to announce DLP taking advantage of the VMware vShield architecture. And with vShield, right, VMware has done a very, very cool thing, right? It says, there's no place to hang security. There's no wires left in virtual environments. I have to move the wires to the virtual domain, right? And I have to enable security policy, right, at the logical boundaries. Very cool, right? Because there's no place to plug it into. And when things are vMotioning around, I need my security services to go with it. Today, we're taking our industry-leading DLP engine, our data loss prevention engine, and delivering it into that vShield architecture environment, allowing us to associate specific policy, implementation of those policies into a vShield and virtualized environment, bringing the best DLP technology in the industry and combining it with the VMware vShield architecture. With the View 5.0 announcement from VMware today, we're also very happy to do continued work to optimize our storage environments to deliver higher performance, higher efficiency for View 5 environments. And thus, with our VNX offering, right, we're being able to take advantage of our fast and our flash cache technologies as part of the VNX arrays to see dramatic increases in the performance, right, the number of desktops that can be booted and supported off of a single VNX environment, and continue to lead in terms of cost per terminal, one of the key determinants of broad IT deployment of virtual desktop environments as well. How much is the infrastructure cost per terminal that I have to put in place? Leading in performance, leading in cost per terminal as well. And of course, we're working to build the competence of virtualization in the industry. And for that, we announced over a year ago a cloud architect program. And today we have over 200 certified cloud architects. And if you're in the audience, you can stand up now. Right, we're going to do a wave. Go ahead, our cloud architects, stand up. Right. Very cool, very cool. Some of those have these designer shirts on. You can tell they're sort of like groupies, right? There's 200 of these that have been certified, and we have over 1,000 cloud architects who are part of the program now, marching towards certification as well, increasing the competence of building, deploying cloud architectures in the industry. So we've looked quickly at private clouds, hybrid clouds, what it takes to accelerate the journey. But now we want to talk just for a moment about the hard stuff, right? The big, heavy environments, we'll call the mission-critical apps. The stuff that says, no, you can move some web servers and some mail servers, and you can virtualize those, but don't touch my Oracle database, baby, right? And these are the ones that we're seeing both ourselves as well as key customers saying, yeah, we're going to touch those as well. The value of a virtualized environment, right, is even greater when we make it homogeneous across all of our infrastructure. And thus, we're out working with customers to virtualize their mission-critical application. This is a sampling of names of those companies that have virtualized an SAP, they have virtualized an ERP, an Oracle environment, right? Other key databases. These are those who are into, right, or through that second phase of the journey, virtualizing their mission-critical applications. This is very real and very powerful in the industry. One of those is Office Max, right? In Office Max, they have, they're now in the 85% virtualized range, right? They've now virtualized a number of their SAP as well as Oracle environments. They have 1,300 plus VMs that they're running in a mission-critical environment today, right? On vSphere as well as on vBlock environments, and they're now deploying all new applications on VMware. Unfortunately, Chris Scoggins, who's the director of IT operations, he'd be sitting right here, but he's presenting at his own session right now. So Steve, right, we didn't do very good in the scheduling for this one, but Chris is here, right, and he'd love to tell you about the great success that Office Max is having. Another example is Alcon. Alcon, about 85% virtualized. And Sean, right, you guys embarrassed me a little bit. Where's Sean? Here you are. Right, because our IT department is still in the high 70s. So you guys are a little bit ahead. I don't like being second in those kind of races, but over 85% virtualized, have seen enormous increases in their processing uptime, faster build times, and I think the discussion yesterday was you deployed an entire vBlock, right, in less time than you could have deployed any piece of equipment before, right, and had it up and running on VMware. I mean, just fabulous work. And Sean, if you could stand up, and the Alcon team who's with you here, if you guys could stand up. Right. Right. And I did just have one little action item for you, Sean. Right? Alcon's been acquired by Novartis, so we have to get all of Novartis up, right, in this fully virtualized environment, okay? So just a little project for you, okay? Right? Big fish taking the little, but you guys are the big fish in this regard, okay? Right, got it, okay. Very good. So, thank you very much, Sean and the Alcon team. But as we're engaging with customers on delivering mission-critical environments, it's often not just the question of virtualizing SAP or virtualizing Oracle or one of the other mission-critical applications. It's often a very complex set, right, of interrelationships and this virtual interface and this set of users and this set of VPNs and all of that complex interconnection technology of an enterprise solution. It's not just the enterprise application. And this is exactly what EMC vCube technology is aiming to deliver, right? Increasing business agility and doing so via containerization, right, of that whole enterprise solution, inclusive of that mission-critical application. And once you've done it, right, that enables private cloud environments for those enterprise solutions, but also cloud portability as well, so I can truly move them, right, across my internal infrastructure or my hybrid cloud environments as well. And our IIG team, right, as part of EMC, looked at this impressive set of technologies from VMware, vCloud Director and vShield and vCenter and vCube and vCucumbers and Watermelon. Maybe we got more V's than I know what to do with, right? But it says, how do I stitch all of those together plus combining it with some critical technologies that we're working on, such as vCube Manager or NetWitness technologies, right? A number of those things, and bring it together in not just a product, but also a methodology that allows us to containerize business critical solutions. And voila, this is exactly what EMC vCube technology is doing. We took as our own proof case against that was our Documentum family of products. And some of the configurations of Documentum require on the order of 30 physical servers that need to be virtualized very carefully to bring together an overall solution. So we're bringing that together and we're delivering that with our Documentum capabilities and then also enabling on demand so that it could be hosted by us or by a service provider, delivered into, right, as a service, or transported into that environment and run on-premise as well. And today we're doing this with our on-demand products that we're just bringing to the marketplace. Next year we'll be broadly enabling the vCube technology with our industry and customers as well. So we've talked about building existing applications and moving them, or containerizing and virtualizing existing applications and moving those into modern infrastructure. We're also working with VMware on things like vFabric and the Data Director technologies that we'll talk more about later to enable new applications, right? Working together for new virtualized client environments like View, but we're also seeing a new application category emerge called big data apps. You know, and to us, big data is really this opportunity to not just transform IT, as we're seeing cloud do, but to transform business as well. And we see these big data applications as dramatically different. Storage needs to be done differently. The underlying infrastructure is entirely scale out. It needs to provide linear scalability with no administration increase. Real or near real-time performance and analytics, not just offline data warehousing environments. And this is the world that we see of the big data future that we're off to enable. With that, we're building what we call the big data stack, a new set of storage infrastructure products, a new set of scale-out analytics and warehousing and database environments, and finally connecting those up to business processes capabilities as well. At the bottom of that is our scale-out storage platform with Isilon. Record scalability, capacity, and as their tagline goes, simple is smart. Right? Doing it with no increase in administrative requirements. A couple of months ago, we set a new IOPS performance record out of an Isilon array, 1.2 million IOs per second. And it wasn't just that it was a new record, it was also done out of a single file system environment as well, which makes it even more impressive, right? A single cluster, single file system for a new peak performance record, right? You know, not just stringing lots of heads together and getting parallel performance out of a single file system instance. And as you can tell, just blowing away any other competitive offering. We also upped our capabilities for record file system capacity now to 15 petabytes. And, you know, we have just a little bit of fun with this as we said, well, you know, single file system at 15 petabytes, let's just draw the others at scale. And we're finding incredible acceptance from customers. And Viacom is one partner that we're working with, and Viacom is well down the virtualization journey as they're virtualizing many of their properties and applications. And in addition to that, they needed to create an environment to run their big media farms as well. And with that, I think we're, Malik, we're at 5 petabytes or so in your environment. Where'd Malik go? Right, I lost you here, right? You know, 20 petabytes. Oh, me being understated? Wow, that's a first. So 20 petabytes of their underlying movie data, the streaming data that they deliver, editing environments, et cetera, to go with it. Right, truly a great cloud partner as well as big data partner. Malik, if you would just stand for a second. But often it's not just about being able to store or stream that data, it's being able to perform analytics, analysis, et cetera, with it. And for that is exactly what the Green Plum data computing appliance is all about. Massive performance, massive scale, 5x the performance of anything else in the industry for data loading, one of the critical metrics. How do we do that? A scale out, share nothing architecture that literally can be as big as the infrastructure that you provide to it. You can automate the loading and parallelization process across it. It self-load balances inside of it, so you don't have to worry about complex query adjustments or all of those crazy things that you might have to do as a DBA in the past. It does it all itself. And if you need more performance or capacity, you just add more nodes. And this is really what scale out is all about, just the simplicity of stretching across these enormous infrastructures that we can build. And with that, we said, boy, there's a lot of action going on in this Hadoop space. People want to be able to do that kind of scale and analysis, not just in structured queries, but also unstructured data as well. So a couple of months ago, we added the Hadoop offering, where EMC is now a Hadoop maintainer and supporter in the industry. We've added Hadoop to the DCA appliance as both software as well as our hardware appliance offerings in the industry as we complete the most robust and complete suite for big data structured and unstructured analytics in the industry. And we're finding customers with great receptivity to this big data opportunity. One is T-Mobile. They looked at some of the traditional data warehousing solutions. They had stitched together a couple 100 terabyte analytics environment, and they could never find a correlation to deal with customer churn, one of the biggest problems that any of the telecommunications guys have. How do they keep, it costs a lot to get a customer, and when I have them, how can I make sure I don't lose them? Because when I lose them, that's the most expensive thing that occurs. And they assembled a multi-database environment using Green Plum, and we're able to analyze this with multi-petabyte environment for the first time ever. And within just a few days of the Green Plum environment, we're able to have the $100 million insight, where they could identify exactly why customers leave, when they leave, who they take with them, and how to go market to them to keep them from departing. A truly phenomenal result. So we've taken a quick look at our private cloud, our public cloud environment, and the full EMC portfolio to deliver across that for backup and archive environment, our data domain, Avamar, and network or family of products. For the enterprise infrastructure, VMax, VNX, and vBlock, delivering the best of class infrastructure for today's application, and as well as for tomorrow's application as well. We've taken a brief look at this opportunity for big data environments as well, and things like Isilon, as well as performing analytics on that with Green Plum. We've also said we need a handful of technologies that enable hybrid environments, the ability to manage, secure, and provide data mobility across public and private cloud environments. And finally, working with our partners at VMware to deliver those in a new set of user experiences across any device that you choose to work or operate upon. That's the whole EMC portfolio and family today. Now, I could stop the speech right there, but we have just a couple more things that we wanted to do in the time we have today. We wanted to think about what could be some of the disruptors for tomorrow. And with that, we said, boy, particularly as we're starting to look at some of these big data applications, what we're seeing is that we have enormous data sets and fairly small computational requirements. And in other cases, we have enormous computational capabilities, but fairly defined working sets. And why can't we take the compute to the data and the storage to the compute? Wouldn't it be better if we could just go get those at the right places? So can't we take that flash technology and go put it in the server? And in other cases, take those x86 MIPS from Intel and move them closer to the storage. And then, of course, we like that over some homogeneous cloud operating system environment. So we think we can do that. And maybe, this morning, we can actually give a demonstration of that. And what we're going to do now is to have a live showing of none other than the infamous Chad's World. And I'm going to have Chad and Steve Hare join me on stage, and we're going to see if we can take a look at some of the disruptors of tomorrow.
Well, it's time for a fresh new view. Turn your heads, it's time you knew. No time for FUD or the hype. It's too untrue. Open up your Twitter. You know you want to. Drop tweets on what we gonna do. He won't stop till he rocks you.
Jazz World, because life is orthogonal. Jazz World, you gotta grab the original. Jazz World.
Guys, come on. It's, you know you're tired and the day is just getting started, but come on, you guys are nerds like me. Don't sit down and go,
Why
we're
don't you
going to
give
do
me a
demos,
comfortable
right?
chair if you would.
Come on.
Okay, Steve, let's go. Okay.
All right.
God, I was just getting comfortable, Chad, but...
So what did you say you wanted to see first, Pat?
Well, I really love this, compute to data and data to compute stuff. I mean, isn't that mind-blowing? Right.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Right. So what do you think? Can you do it?
Of course.
Of course. It's Chad's world. What do you expect?
So, all right,
cool,
Steve.
You think we can do
Listen,
it?
I just want to say up front, I don't get nervous often, but this Chad's World is a very heady experience.
I'm here for you,
It'll
Steve.
be all right.
I'm here for you.
Okay, so what we've got here is we've got an Isilon cluster, some ESX hosts.
Okay.
And let's take a quick look at what we're going to do. So you can see here, if I navigate into vCenter,
Okay.
that you can see that we've got these clusters, and there's a Hadoop VM. So this is a bandwidth-constrained, large data set kind of scenario. So if we go and we take a look at the performance metrics, you can see it's driving around 10 megabytes per second, which isn't too much. But it's running on a vanilla ESX host today, running on vSphere, which is fantastic. Good job. So you can see that this is a case where, wouldn't it be great if we could move that workload directly so that the VM was running on the storage subsystem. So let's go and do a
VM
vMotion.
on the storage.
You got it. So we're going to vMotion that now, and it's going to run directly on the Isilon cluster. So we're moving the workload from running on the ESX host to now running on the storage subsystem itself.
Is that
Pretty
okay
cool,
if we do
pretty
that?
cool. You should use the iPad app, by the way. It lets you vMotion in a very cool way.
So it is quite cool. You can see now, there it is. And if we go up and we take a look and compare the performance metrics, you'll see that it's driving a lot more bandwidth, roughly around 3 to 4 times the amount that we saw before. So this is an example, right, where we can see huge benefits right out of the gate of moving the workload from running on the ESX host to running on the storage subsystem itself, where it's much closer to the data set. If we do a refresh here, you can see that it's driving roughly around 30 megabytes per second now. So a huge improvement,
Cool.
right? Yeah. Now, not all workloads are like that. Again, this one's bandwidth constrained, right? So you can see this is the primary use case where moving VM to compute, moving the compute to the storage subsystem is the way to go, right? But let's just say hypothetically we had a different workload, right? What would be a good workload you think that would be transactional in nature, hypothetically? Maybe a stock trading application?
Okay, yeah, high performance stock trading. They're real concerned about latency, right?
Yes,
So
they are.
Yeah.
look at this, just fantastic bandwidth improvements. But let's start to look at that second example, right? So, okay, fantastic. All right, so now as what luck would have it, we've got
just happen to have one on
just
here.
happen to have one on hand.
What a
So
surprise.
what we did is our VSI plugin that you mentioned, we've extended it via a little prototype here. This is called Project Lightning, and this extends via the single plugin all of the integration that we do with a server-side PCIe-based flash device, but also all of the storage subsystems that we do today. So let's take a look. If we go to the host and the clusters, what this new plugin allows you to do is if we click on that VM and we click on the ESX host and we click on the cluster and we go over to the VSI tab, you can see funky stuff. So you can see, for example, all sorts of performance metrics. So what we can see is that we're driving basically around a latency that's around 15 milliseconds.
Okay.
And the amount of storage array IOPS in this case is around 20,000 IOPS. Now, if we go and we take a look at the individual ESX host, you can see that ESX host, we see similar sort of statistics. Right now here, this one isn't running the VM, so you don't see anything. But if I click on that one, you can see that, likewise, this has got the single stock trading VM running on that individual host, and you can see again the same sort of latency that we saw before. Now, what would be cool is if we could click on that VM and enable the Lightning capability. So if I go here, you can see that there's cache hit ratio, utilization, same sort of performance metrics. But I can't click Lightning because we don't have a PCIe-based Lightning card sitting in this individual ESX host. So this is a case where the data set is small and we want to move it so it's running on the same we're going to move the data onto the compute. So we're going to vMotion this individual VM, and we're now going to move it to an ESX host that has a Lightning card.
Okay.
So as
moving compute.
Exactly. So
Right.
we're moving the data so that it's co-resident on the server itself. And now, as that vMotion completes, I can go up to that Lightning host, and you can see that the stock trading app is there. If I go once again, you can see the plugin capabilities, right? So we've got all of the VMs here that are running. We could enable them all en masse if we wanted to. Or what we could do is we can go and we can select one of them. And again, I think it's kind of cool the way we did this. So you can see it both at the cluster level, at the host level. And really the key thing about all of these use cases is everyone wants VM level visibility and granularity, right? For everything, for the storage operations and those sorts of things. So let's click on the VM and go over to VSI. And if we click here and enable Lightning, what it's doing is it's actually leveraging the PCIe flash device. It's enabling the vSwap to be moved locally, enabling in-guest behavior. And in this test, which we completed earlier, you can see what occurred is the latency immediately drops off dramatically, right?
Okay, stunning drop in latency.
And a huge increase in the number of IOPS that the individual guest was able to achieve. And you can see here we can install Lightning tools inside the guest and disable Lightning as well. So very, very huge performance increase. And you can see cache hit and rate utilization for the PCIe card on the individual VM, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
nice.
so we did two things, right? So we took the compute, the Hadoop move, and move it right into the Isilon cluster.
Correct.
Is Isilon supposed to be able to do that?
Well, you know, today, no, right?
Okay,
So
very
as
good.
you can see, constructing these things involves a lot of cutting-edge technology.
Okay.
So but if you think about it, an Isilon cluster can be up to 144 nodes of Westmere CPUs and lots of memory and lots of storage.
That's pretty impressive.
Run the
And then-
VM directly on that.
And then our first ever demonstration of a virtualized Lightning environment.
Right.
Right, and Lightning, right, Steve, just to let you know, we're going beta with
Flash.
it this quarter, right? Our flash cards and GA before the end of the year. Right, Lightning team? You better say yes.
Where are you?
Right.
Now you are.
So what should we do next? Maybe some security stuff?
Well, yeah, so we move compute to data and data to compute. What do you think, Steve? Pretty
Yeah,
good?
let's see some vShield integration work. That'd be nice.
Exactly, right? So
okay.
you talked about it in your keynote. It was cool. We talked a little bit about, in some slides. I think a demonstration is usually the right way to do this. So this is vShield Manager 5, and I'm logging in. And as I log in, right, you can see that what we've done is we've integrated sensitive data discovery into vShield 5 app. So if you go and you take a look, we've got a series of VMs, and we thought, wouldn't it be cool to use Envision as an example VM? But if we go and we take a look, you talked about 80 policies. These policies, I mean, they're funky, right? So like, hey, you've got to comply with social security numbers, but also Germany driving license numbers.
Oh yeah,
And,
that was on my list, yeah.
The New Zealand Ministry of Health and the Kansas, Oklahoma, Germany, look at all of it, right? I mean, trying to just comply with these standards, like there's some big ones, HIPAA as an example, right? But there's so many of these. It's very difficult to do this in the physical world, not just because of mobility, but also because, who can keep track of this stuff? It's very, very difficult, very complex. So now as we publish this and we start the scanning, we don't need to have any agents inside the VM. So now we're going to a VM, and we've got an evil user. And this evil user...
Steve.
Is Steve, yeah. So we're going to call him KP Brady. And KP Brady is going to log in, and he's going to try and get some stuff that he probably shouldn't. So as we log in and we go to the remote directory, we go into this other users folder, and we take a look at what's on their desktop. They've got some stuff which is conveniently called confidential information.
That could be a clue.
So they're going to download this confidential information. Now Mr. Evil KP Brady has got it, right? Now again, notice there's been no agent in this process. So if we open up what's now on their desktop running inside a VM, and we say, hey, what have you got? We're going to see he's got some stuff he probably shouldn't, right? So if we go and we take a look at what's inside his local directories, hey, take a look at this, secret and confidential. Again, probably not the right name. But if we open up some of these files, you can see, hey, it's got a credit card number and a name. And if we open something else, you can see it's got some healthcare information, right? So this is stuff that you don't want floating around. Now, if we take a look, we can see inside the reports, boom, we've caught all of this stuff that's gone on. Here are all the violations against that individual policy, right? And if we take a look, we can see the individual files that were the triggers for that. So just, a great example of what we can do leveraging EMC RSA technologies, integrating into vShield. Right?
Very nice one. I like that.
So just as an interesting example, again, time is compressed here, right? What's cool beyond that is if you wanted to bring it into security events integration and management at very large scale, it integrates handy dandy with RSA and Vision today. That also integrates with vCenter and with ESX and vShield. Same thing goes with RSA Archer if you want to have a compliance dashboard. So what do you guys think about that?
Good stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. But the coolest thing, right, that I think that Paul talked about yesterday, right, was this database stuff. Right, I mean, this whole idea, right, of this mission critical stuff and how you bring that together with Data Director, right, to me, that was like out of this world.
Out of this world.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of time to talk about it this morning, but it would have taken me an hour to talk about all the cool things that are going on there.
Wouldn't it be cool if maybe we do a demonstration of it?
That'd be good.
Could we?
All right.
It's Chad's world, so go for it.
Is anyone here in the audience ever do a
right?
DBA, a DBA type task? Anyone?
Okay, get on with it.
No? All right. Well, so what we're going to do here is this is what vFabric Data Director looks like. So if you go and you log in, we're going to create this individual database instance here. And the vFabric Postgres database is an example. One thing that's cool is it includes leveraging vSphere 5's fundamental capabilities for things like elasticity, being able to hot add memory and CPU. So this is very different than just creating a virtual machine, right? What we're trying to do is create a model whereby we're creating database fundamentally as a service. So we go off and we're going to create another one. This would take a long time to do. Even if you're using VCD, when you go and you create a single VM, the trick, of course, right, is then the DBA needs to log in. They need to create the database within there. Ideally, what they'd want is they'd want to have database as a service. They don't need to access IP addresses or anything like that. Now, the other thing that's cool is this leverages all of the VAI stuff that we were talking about earlier. So creating VMs can be quick, simple, and easy. But once it's done, it doesn't just create the virtual machine, and then you have to give the database an IP address, and they remote in and do stuff. They basically can access it, they get the URL, and immediately they're using the database as a service. So fast, simple, easy provisioning of database as a service is awesome. And again, the first example includes this vFabric Postgres database. But that's not the database model for everything, right?
Most people don't use Postgres. What about some others?
Well, hypothetically, wouldn't it be cool if we had a future version of vFabric Data Director, right?
Future version?
So this is a preview of the next, future things to come down this path. So we actually have 2 builds that we had here in advance. And what we're going to do is open it up, and you'll notice that directly inside the UI, you can create other database models. So for example, I can go in and say I'd like to create an Oracle database, right? So if you need to use Oracle for whatever reason, boom, you create it inside the database pool, off you go, and we've database as a service the actual Oracle instance as well. So, again, making it easy and convenient no matter what kind of database you're using, right? The next example is, you can see, what happens if it's not a transactional database? What happens if it's something that is a database which is going to use, let's just say you need to use an in-memory scale-out kind of model, right?
Like maybe Greenplum, huh?
Well, no, here it's going to still be a relational data fabric. So do we have anything like that?
Oh, maybe Gemfire.
We use Gemfire, we can use SQLfire, right? So boom, off we go. And again, you can see we've created database as a service not just for relational database models, but for scale-out in-memory models. Do we have anything for analytics in our portfolio?
Okay. What do you, Greenplum?
Let's try Greenplum.
Okay.
Let's do Greenplum, right? So, again, this whole idea of creating databases as a service is going to just transform the way the next layer in the stack works. So if vCloud Director has simplified creating a multi-tenant, self-service data, model for infrastructure, vFabric Data Director, which is, I think, really, really cool, one of the bigger announcements this week, is transforming the database model so it's also multi-tenant and self-service models. And again, you could do this all via the UI. If they log in as users, they get a different view. But the point is that we're cloudifying the database, which I think is just awesome stuff.
So just as easy as I provision a VM, I'm going to be able to provision a database. An Oracle, a Postgres, a Gemfire, SQLfire, a Greenplum.
What do you think? Is that awesome or what?
Yeah, it's quite cool. I've actually been playing with this a fair amount. It is a big change. It's not something we're used to talking about at VMworld, but it allows me to really not call the database administrator when they shouldn't be bugged. And that's really, we don't want to deal with them, and they don't want to deal with us, candidly, when you're doing standard things.
Exactly.
Trying to say, okay, we'll go there.
So what do you guys think? Are those cool, 3 cool demos or what?
So moving compute to data,
Yep.
and data to compute.
Yep.
Right, we've shown the integration with vShield, right, and finally, right, this entirely new world of virtualizing the data environment, right?
Totally.
Really, really cool.
Databases
Thank you
as
so
a
much,
service.
Chad.
My pleasure.
Right, Steve.
Outstanding,
Right,
thanks.
this is fabulous. Right, and to you, the audience, we're just delighted, right? We have made such extraordinary progress in transforming IT, right, as we deliver this world of cloud, private, public, and hybrid, right, and finally open up an entirely new world of business value with big data transforming IT. And we're living at the heart, right, of the intersection of those two. Steve, Chad,
good stuff.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Chad, as always.
All right. Thank you.
Virtually